Hey, here I am. Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. That troublemaker, that big mouth, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest here on the Reparations Perspective, formerly Friends of ADOS TV, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering, family. Thank you so much for joining me here on the live. You know you are my co-host and the wind beneath my wings. Y'all know who y'all are. I saw Mike Michelson up in here early. He said first, like we was in a race to get this information. And I'm so thrilled every time I see each and every one of you on the live. Shout out to Miss Lady K Love and Brian C. Johnson. Yes, family. Cherie Thomas, I see you. Brian says those are staggering numeric differences, but Asians are the victims. Oh, we about to talk about it. But first I got to do a little commercial for coming to America. Okay, the number 2. Now, I see some of y'all ripping me to shreds because you expect me to stay mad all the damn time. It doesn't walk a straight line politically for y'all. Y'all come for my jugular if I embrace it. We need a break, family. And that's what Eddie Murphy's comedic relief does for me. He makes me laugh and laugh and laugh some more. And the way he infused the old Coming to America with the new, I'm telling you, he brought a whole new meaning to Black Don't Crack. I'm amongst them. We're amongst them. Adocs. That black does not crack. The people were absolutely stunning to look at. The costumes and the makeup and the set design was extraordinary, family. And the reason why this is so important is this is what we come from. I'm going to do a separate show. I didn't have time to bring up all the data I have. But do you know that some of us literally descend from African royalty? Yes. When there were wars, the losers would be sold into slavery. Okay? So it's no wonder to me why we are some of the best and brightest, most brilliant minds on the planet. That combination of African and American. Okay? But that Africa is what drives who we really are. Let's not be so Adocs bound that we forget the greatness in which we come from. Not all, but there were literally wars. And the winners sold us. So to me, I'm not at all surprised when we master things like Billie Holiday. Never trained vocally. You understand me? So be proud of that. And that's what I love about it. I didn't take issue with the fact that, some of my peers called me up. Angela, they're making a mockery of American women. Well, let me tell you something, family. That is some of America. That is some of American women. Leslie Jones's character, whom I loved. She was beautiful. You know how they always try to dehumanize Leslie's style of beauty because they're constantly putting up a white standard, as if her brand of beauty isn't sufficient. And it is. She looked like African royalty. Adocs royalty is what they all look like. Furthermore, while I didn't agree with the reference to the son as the bastard, there were too many pros that outweighed the cons, family. Okay? And that's what we've got to focus on. We've got to learn to find the good, family. It is taxing enough every day waking up Adocs in this godforsaken country. You hear me? But we've got it even better than most blacks. Isn't that the sad truth? We've got things that we can embrace, and comedy is one of them. If you want something deep and heavy duty, watch Judas and the Black Messiah. Watch Billie Holiday. But if you want a serious, honest reprieve, from the rage. You know, waking up Adocs in this country means being in a rage constantly, right? There's always something to traumatize us as they now sit up here and run to rescue Asians who need no protection from Adocs. How about we boycott their businesses? How about that? And then we'll see how much they'll get on this bandwagon of Adocs being the ones to victimize Asians. Remember, you didn't really start hearing about this nonsense, right? Until Black lives started to matter to everybody in the damn born world. Do you understand what I'm telling you? So learn to look at things with your third eye, family. Learn to put the pieces together and stop operating in this all lives matter space. When the only lives proven not to matter in this country are Adocs lives. Anyway, I digress. I'm already jumping into the show. But I do want to highly endorse, and I want to thank you, Eddie Murphy. You may never see this video. My audience is a little tiny army, but we're resilient. We're resilient and we're here, okay? Every Friday and Sunday to get that information to understand who we are as Adocs in the politics and the politricks, rather, here. Eddie Murphy, I want to thank you for hiring 6,000 Blacks. And I'm running the show on repeat. Me and my daughter just got through watching it, and I'm going to let it lull me to sleep. It was beautiful because he dealt with issues that are plaguing our community. If you stop being mad long enough, he snuck in gentrification when they came back to a more beautified Queens. He touched on that. The one lone business left. How many of those businesses are Asian? Okay, we're going to get into it. He also touched on how educated his princely son was and the white race soldier sitting across the desk that refused to hire him. Okay, that is what is real. And Eddie Murphy, in his advocacy, used his comedy to bring light to those various serious issues while y'all coming for my throat because I enjoyed it. He advocated for his own people in his own way. And hiring 6,000 Black actors, I'm sure many of whom I saw, or at least I speculate, are Adocs. Where are they hiring 6,000 Black folks? Period. In this country. So understand that a degree doesn't close the egregious racial wealth gap. That brother was 3 credits shy of his degree and was told no. He was told no to gainful employment, although he was a genius at everything he touched. That is exactly what happens when we as a people don't keep the boot on the oppressor's neck in the way they did George Floyd through our politics. And that is what's happening right now with this Asian narrative. So before I jump to my screens, I'm not going to be able to see you when I disappear to start reading all the puckery that is going on as they try to weaponize our oppression against us to now be concerned about Asians. And I'm going to share with you a video of Jenny Mai. You see, just because you sleep Black don't make you Black, honey boo boo, child. Okay. Just because you sleep Black don't make you a sister. Jenny Mai, whatever the hell you are. And so for you to get on the real, and this is why we've got the new Black media, you understand. I'm jumping around. I know. So many thoughts just be crowding my mind. Somebody asked me when I put up a poster of, what's his name? I can see his face from CNN with the white hair, the gay gentleman. What's his name? Oh, I can't think. But it says basically nobody watches us anymore. They realize we were lying. I'm paraphrasing. And someone asked me, well, what do you recommend we watch? I recommend you watch the new Black media and understand and understand how you factor into this country's 300-year-long plan to make us fourth-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives. and how many immigrant white oppressors there are helping in that agenda. But before I go there, I want to encourage you to watch this movie, support this movie. Let's break Prime Video history by supporting Coming to America and blow the numbers off the doors, because as you already know, when it's Adocs involved, we've got to prove a bazillion times more that this is what we want before Hollywood will put money into it. So please support Eddie in his efforts to keep us gainfully employed. It is a beautiful movie. It is rich. You know, it talks about different things like breaking from your old mindsets. It's wild because as free as Eddie ultimately was to make his decision to marry the beautiful Sherry Headley, Lisa, he was coming up against some of his own prejudices based on the customs of Zamunda. You will see yourself in it, and you can watch it with your family. Well, some of the parts are a little gratuitous, but, you know, at least your teens, maybe not your kitty kiddos, but some of the stuff will probably go right over their heads. But you know us, we're sexual people. And if you're listening to white reviewers of this, don't. Understand that the first one was 30 years ago. It will never be as good as the first time. Don't go into it with that lens. And please, for an hour and 30 minutes, can you put your advocacy down to just have a drink and enjoy yourself? You know, let's just stop with that part when watching this movie. Because if you watch it through that lens, you're going to find more to be pissed off about, and will turn it off and miss some of the best, most richest moments in the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So with that said, family, let me jump over and dig into this topic. What's up, Michael Cooper, Jeremiah Thompson, Toolbox Evolution? Y'all know I'll be back to give you love if I haven't shouted you out. And to those of you who have yet to chat, y'all know some folks don't like to chat. They like to watch me in secret. They don't want nobody to know they watching my crazy behind. It's okay. I love y'all Black and Strong too. So let's get right into it. I think I want to go first to Jenny Mine. I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to dig into some of the facts surrounding what she had to say about the anti-Asian narrative or sentiment that's happening. You know, they like to blow these things up, okay? Asian Americans are in Hawaii, New York, San Francisco, down here in LA. I have to look it up. It's in one of my folders I've opened to give you those statistics. So let's just listen to her share the way she sees it. And I'm going to be pausing in between to give my data to try to tighten up the show, because I want to read about that revolutionary minister, Jeremiah Wright, whom I love, as my Freedmen hero for Freedmen History Day all year. Okay, whatever I call it. You know me, always making up stuff, but that's how it is. I am who I am. So let's get into it. Just give me a second, y'all. I got to get to that video. And I got a lot of windows open, so forgive me. The real host, Jeannie Mae, on Asian American attacks. Ending racism. Audio shared. Okay, let's get into it now. Oh, Lord. Okay, so let me come over here and make sure y'all can see it. Oh, it's too much of me. Hold on. I'm going to narrow me and enlarge the video so you can still see me. But let's get into, this is from the real Jenny Mai speaking on an uptick in attacks against elderly Asian Americans. And shout out to the Black Authority. Shout out to Queen Amadad Shakur. These are two of my favorite in New Black media. And, you know, I get my inspiration for my show from these great journalists. And so I do want to shout those two out, because I don't just put the shows together. I get inspired by many people out here, and I get inspired to do my talking points. Mine is usually going to be centered around the data. and the numbers. Follow the money when you want to see where the puckery is, okay? That's what you have to do, okay? So let's get into it. Hold on one second.
It's been open season on elder Asians. So there have been over 20 different attacks, robberies, things where that man right there was an 84-year-old Thai American who was killed after that brutal attack. It's just by getting pushed for no reason. There's no suspect. There are suspects, but nobody has been taken in yet, or because it's unbelievable to come from the Bay Area. And that footage right there isn't the only act.
Sorry, guys, I didn't go back far enough.
Yes, especially since the Bay Area is such its own melting pot in it of itself. There's a lot of mom and pops that have built the Bay Area to be what it is, that are full of just mixed cultures, and everybody gets along. It really is the place that taught me about what inclusivity means and what diversity means. So to see this going on now, specifically targeting Asians and specifically targeting elders, is so painful to watch, because it's unbelievable to come from the Bay Area. And that footage right there isn't the only act that's happening. In the last 2 weeks alone, it's been open season on elder Asians. So there have been over 20 different attacks, robberies, things where that man right there was an 84-year-old Thai American who was killed after that brutal attack. It's just by getting pushed for no reason. There's no suspect. There are suspects, but nobody has been taken in yet, or has been found guilty for this. And for me, the first thing that comes to mind is it's an unspoken responsibility as humans, as members of a community, to protect our elders. Like that's just, you don't even have to teach your kids about that. We just know we were raised by elders. It should be just natural for us. So to see that our elders out there can't even take a walk, can't even go to the bank. The Oakland Chinatown Commerce actually warned Asians now, because Lunar Year is coming up, to not go to the bank and withdraw money and put them into the red envelopes like we usually do. To now have a buddy that is younger than you when you walk. These basic tips are now being given because it's not safe. And I'm afraid for my grandmother, because she takes walks in her neighborhood, and we actually made a call to her and said, you have to stay inside, you can't go out anymore.
Okay, let me just take a breath. Let's take a breath and talk about, what she said right there. That was a mouthful. Let's talk about how California was a free state that sanctioned slavery under the fugitive slave laws, right? So she wants to sit up here and talk about how Asians built up the Bay Area. We were there long before they were there. Let's talk about how she is just, oh my God, mortified over the fact that the elderly are being harassed. Now, I'm not trying to get into a pissing match over them being harassed. I get that. But the gentleman in that particular photo, that particular video, appeared to be black. It looked like he had a natural hairstyle, right? But when you look at the recent videos, you see a lot of white folks that this media ain't talking about, as these Asians try to act like it is a black thing. It is an Adocs thing. Okay? This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it appear as if we are doing every attack. I think of all the attacks that have happened, only one has been by a black person. And yet they're trying to make this a black versus Asian, anti-Asian sentiment thing. And if you just look at the timing of it all, George Floyd, Chauvin is about to go on trial. Look at that as a major distraction. The fact that some Asians came out for Black Lives Matter. So the corporate with 3Ks news media, including Jenny Mai and The Real, are paid to mask the fact that Black lives don't matter and never will until we have economic inclusion. She's talking about the elderly being pushed. I'm not trying to minimize that. I think that's a dreadful thing. But I also think it's dreadful when the race soldiers are allowed to execute us with impunity for jogging while black, sleeping while black, driving while black, running while black. But we're now supposed to take away from Black Lives Mattering to coalesce around Asians in this all lives matter umbrella. She wants this. Biden pushed in his first 7 weeks for Asian protection, and we still don't have anti-lynch laws in this country. The very thing the feds executed Billie Holiday over when they chained her to her bed for singing Strange Fruit. You understand? The war on drugs started with Billie Holiday, chained to her bed over singing about strange fruit, from them lynching us way back when, and it's still going on to this day. They're lynching us economically. They're lynching us through government-sanctioned executions. They're lynching us in the private prison industrial complex. They've lynched us in the war on drugs that they now give therapy for their opioid addicted. But Billie Holiday's methadone while she was going through withdrawals was taken from her. That's what killed her. The FBI wouldn't let anyone near her. Okay? So just understand, you've got to watch. If you're going to participate in this foolishness, you must watch it with a third eye and understand the government and corporate with 3K's news media coalescing together for your extinction. They're literally sitting up here trying to make this about an all lives matter when we know that since George Floyd, the executions by the race soldiers have not ceased. The only thing that's different is that perhaps people aren't taping them as often, and or the news media isn't reporting on it. So let me go back to her.
But this brings up a bigger issue that we haven't spoken about, and it's something that I've had conversations with in my family and within our different sectors of our communities of Asians, but we haven't spoken on a bigger spectrum, and I really want to bring attention to this. And it's especially when I saw that 2020 really highlighted how much white supremacy still exists and how much it hurts the Black community. It's dangerous to our community when it comes to protecting our Black brothers and sisters. But the problem is white supremacy not only feeds off of destroying the allyship with Black communities, but it also targets homophobia and hate against Asians and xenophobia. And that to me is the problem that we have to now look at anti-Blackness within our Asian community as well. There is an unspoken.
Okay, me speaking again. So I want to see how much white supremacy was impacting the Asian community. So I looked up a couple of things. Let me get to them and share it with you. The officer who shot Philando Castile was found not guilty. That doesn't seem like anything going against Asians. Peter Liang was not convicted up in the Bay. That story was about hold on one second. Peter Liang. Why was Officer Peter Liang? He was convicted. Was it racism, the facts of the case, or fraying trust in the police? But this Peter Liang, the jurors kept returning to the 11.5-pound trigger of his New York Police Department standard issue 9mm Glock. They wanted to feel its weight in their hands to jerk its trigger as he said he had before deciding the officer's guilt. Liang was the officer who killed Akai Gurley, a 28-year-old father, for no reason but that Gurley had walked into a dark stairwell. Okay? I don't hear anything about white supremacists, against the Asians there. Korean grocer settles suits and girl slain. You guys remember this story back in 92? The Korean grocer convicted of voluntary manslaughter for shooting a 15-year-old black girl to death last year in a dispute over a bottle of orange juice has settled a wrongful death lawsuit bought by the girl's siblings. I don't hear any white supremacists towards Asians. You've seen numerous videos about Asian beauty supply store owners giving lots of women the smackdown and being very abusive towards American descendants of chattel slavery who are forced to shop in their stores. Forced to shop in their stores because we don't own in our neighborhoods. Okay? I looked it up. According to the Guardian's database in 2016, the rate of fatal police shootings per million was 10.13 for Native Americans, 6.6 for Black people, 3.23 for Hispanics, 2.9 for white people, and 1.17 for Asians. A little over a million. There are 18 million in this country since 2019. And I asked Google how many of them have been killed by the police in the U.S. We have 6.6 million Black people killed at the hands of the race soldiers compared to their 1.17 million. They're 18 million. We're 35 million. 40 million if you throw in Black immigrants. So she's sitting up here once again, family, trying to make this about an all lives matter issue, trying to take our despair, okay, our despair, what plagues us, and make folks pivot to the all lives matter narrative, throwing everybody in the pot. Do you know what that does for our issues to get any policy passed to protect us? When people like her come on here and misrepresent the data. Okay, so Asian Americans live in 5 states. 2/3 of American Asians lived in the 5 states of California, New York, Hawaii, Texas, and Illinois. Additionally, their highest population concentrations were in California, New York, and Hawaii. I was looking on my data. Okay, the average net worth for Asians in this country is $673,000, as compared to American descendants of chattel slavery, $17,000. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I thought I had pulled up the numbers of the imprisoned. How many Asians were imprisoned? And I was trying to find that. I don't see it. Can I take a second, family, and find this? Because I'm just trying to prove a point here. That it's not the Asians that need protecting. I'm not minimizing their elderly. I feel sorry for them getting pushed around. But hey, I know that those are white supremacists pushing them by and large. Out of all the ones you've seen, which the media, the mainstream media, is not sharing about. They're trying to make it seem like this is a predominantly Adocs against Asian immigrants. They're trying to create a fight within the races. I'm not trying to ignite that, but I'm going to call your BS out every opportunity I get. That's what I do over here at the Reparations Perspective. I let you see things through your third eye so you can see all the trickery that's going on to try to get you distracted from the real fight, which is reparations and weaponizing our vote and socializing this suffering. Okay, so let me just take a minute. How many Asians in prison in the U.S.? Okay, let's get into it. So inmates in the race. Blacks. Okay, so this is by, how's this table? Federal Bureau of Prisons. Okay. The black inmates, and this is, I'm certain it's wrong, but I want to tell you about the Asian slaves, okay? According to, this was last updated February 2021. According to this, Asians, who are 18 million in this country, have 1.5% of the inmates, as compared to blacks, 13% of this country. They claim we only make up 38.5%, but perhaps this is because it's the federal prison. Let me see if I can find something. U.S. incarceration stats. Okay. But you get the idea. Less than 2% of their 18 million, around 40% for Adocs. I don't want to spend too much time. I don't know what happened to my slide that I had open. So let me go back to Jenny May and her made-up world, okay? Hold on one second. I'll continue to stop as I have talking points.
Intention between Asian and blacks. I've heard it in my family. I've seen it within different communities. It exists, and it actually has a lot of resentment and a lot of pain that requires healing. You know, the newer generation of Asian Americans that understand BLM and understand what it means to be inclusive in our circles of our communities. It's not enough. We actually have to grow an alliance with our older generation and our newer generation to understand that racism kills everybody. It's not just black versus Asians. It's not just Asians versus black. It's not white versus black. It's all around. We need to protect one another. And within the working middle class communities, black and Asian and entrepreneurs thrive. You don't go into a black neighborhood without seeing Asian businesses or restaurants or liquor store owners, and vice versa. You don't go into Asian neighborhoods without seeing black customers. And
I just told you nationwide, their net worth is 673,000. To Adocs, 17,150 to be exact, if you're nasty, okay? Do you hear this BS she's spinning? Do you hear it? I know that my woke boomers, Gen Xers, millennials who follow this show saw that sleight of hand where she tried to make it appear as if we're on equal footing. She literally tried to suggest that we've got the same businesses doing the same things in their communities as they do ours, but she pivoted before she lied to say customers. How are we customers in their communities when their net worth is 673,000 on the average through the U.S. as compared to Adocs net worth? What can we buy in their communities? Let's get into it. Give me a second. I got to toggle on these things so I don't have to share the screen. So let's talk about the Bay Area, which is where she's from. The Bay Area has highest income inequality in all of California. The ones in the 90th percentile, that would be the Asians, earn $384,000 a year. Black households in San Francisco and Oakland have fewest home buying options in the U.S. The Black median income in the Bay Area. Hold on one second. The median household income for African Americans in the 9 counties was $48,000. To what I just shared with you was close to $400,000. The lowest median household income reported was in San Francisco County. $29,000 is the median where Jenny Mai is from. But we're customers in their neighborhoods. Followed by Alameda County, $38,000. A monthly income of $5,000 allows you to live in an average apartment and meet basic expenses each month while having money left over to save or use toward unexpected costs such as car repairs or dental work. That amounts to $60,000 per year. I just told you, we can't even afford to live in San Francisco as this trick sits up here on the reel and spins these lies. She got one half of it right. They own everything in our communities, down to the liquor stores, to keep us liquored up. You need $60,000 a year to live in the Bay. We are $48,000 amongst all the counties, 9 of them to be included, to be exact. San Francisco County, $29,000. Alameda County, $38,000. That's us, Adocs. Let's keep going. As she sits up here and pretends like we got it going on just like them. Lies. What a liar. Revenues for Asian-owned firms surpass $326 billion with the big dollars. What about Black-owned businesses? What about Black-owned businesses? Adocs-owned businesses? What portion of this $326 billion was built on Blacks in our communities? Do you see why I'm asking you for a boycott for this kind of foolishness? She wants to act like there's a distinction between her and her elders. Where? If there was a distinction and you really believe Black lives really matter, you would tell the truth on national TV. Let's talk about the housing market. This is December 2020. San Francisco, the median sold price of existing single-family homes were $48,000 amongst the 9 counties. Remember that now. $29,000 in San Francisco, $38,000 in Alameda County. $60,000 is what it really takes to just live in an apartment. In San Francisco, the median sold price of an existing single-family home. Get ready for this. Talk about gentrification. $1,581,000 to $1,697,500. In San Mateo, 1.7 million. Santa Clara, 1,375,000. Solano, 510,000. But you, who sleeps black, who married Jeezy, you see, Jeezy got to come up. That's what a lot of these brothers are doing. They're coming up on whiteness through the immigrants. Because why, family? What do we teach over here? The color of white in this country is green. So he's coming up on Jenny Mai, like a lot of brothers are doing. When they've got any type of wealth position, this is what they choose to do instead of marrying their own and building up their own communities. They sleep with our immigrant white oppressors, make babies with them. And when they divorce their asses, all that wealth goes into their communities. Let's see, what else do I have to share? It takes a non-white household 36.4 years to buy a home in San Francisco. That wouldn't be us. Not at no damn $29,000 a year as a median income. Let's see, what else do I have over here? Okay. Let's talk about minority-owned firms. They tend to hire within their own ethnic group. Because I want to know, how much of that $330 billion is used to hire black folks? How many folks you hiring? I see a few blacks peppered throughout some of the beauty supply stores. After much complaint by the people in the community, they are starting to hire a few of us. I don't know what they pay them. What did I say? That was $326 billion? Okay. So I found an article. Minority-owned businesses in LA County overwhelmingly employ minority workers and tend to hire within their own ethnic group. A Los Angeles Times poll has found a trend with key implications for the region's economic growth and unemployment rates, particularly in low-income areas. Who do you think that is? Worth 200 liquid down here. Well, Asian Indians, Kamala people, worth 465,000 liquid down here in LA. And you wonder why we got master degree people driving for Uber and Lyft. And as goes LA, so goes the nation. Wait for it. Nearly 3/4 of Latinos surveyed described their workforce as mostly Latina. 41% of black business owners reported a mostly black workforce. How is that? We don't have that kind of business down here. 95% of black-owned businesses are self-employed. So I guess if you look at the fact that they're self-employed, they employ themselves, they're black-owned. They have a black workforce. Of Asian firms, nearly a third employed mostly Asian workers, and almost as many had a mostly Latino workforce. Not Adocs, though. Not Adocs. At a time when immigrants have been viewed as a drain on the economy, the statistics underscore a notable self-sufficiency among minority small businesses and the role they play in grooming the region's minority employee base. You see why we hate that word as Adocs? Because if you don't understand the distinction, if you don't unflatten blackness, you would think that you were a part of those minority numbers that they're gainfully employing, which don't include us. The overwhelming number of workers in minority firms are drawn from those ethnic groups, said Thomas Boston, a professor of economics at Georgia Tech University, who has studied the phenomenon. It's those firms that are really generating jobs, particularly when you look at African Americans and Hispanics, hard pressed for employment. And these very Asians are the ones who showed up to vote against our affirmative action. That Adocs Ward Connerly got turned over with this reverse discrimination BS he was on. He's Adocs in 96, which has gotten us from 16% down here down to 6%. The propensity for ethnic employers to hire their own is influenced by a variety of social and demographic forces. They include reliance on existing workers to bring in new recruits, more activist tendencies of minority employers to hire and train workers who share their background in the composition of the workforce, made up of a high number of immigrant Latinas who are concentrated in low-skilled industries. Let's also talk about racism. Let's talk about institutional systemic racism to lock us out and to leave us to do what we've continued to do, which is to pull ourselves up by our bootless straps. Let's talk about, with reparations, we'd be in a position to do the same for our lineage. But would we, Byron Allen? Enough of that. Okay, so let's go back to Jenny Mai's BS.
And black clients that keep our businesses alive. And so with this rise of these attacks, what I'm hearing in the circles of my community, from my phone calls, from different Asian entrepreneurs and business owners, is we've got to increase the policing against Black people. We've got to now watch out for Black people. We've got to, whether it requires more security or maybe protecting more of the goods. I have a hair shop owner who says, now I think I have to go put all of my Black bundles of hair products and weaves back inside of plastic containers and lock them down. And I'm like, no, that's not the answer. The increasing policing and increasing this stereotyping and stigma that Black people are dangerous is not going to help the overall problem that we do have anti-Blackness within our Asian communities, and we need to stop it by opening conversations. We need to condemn having those type of thought processes in our families. Anybody who's Asian out there and have businesses and people within your family members and neighborhoods that are now afraid, they cannot be targeting.
She's trying to protect that Asian bag. You hear her Asian splaining?
Black people, I cannot be having these racist comments that are going to increase the anti-Blackness that we've had already for generations. So we need to stop it. We need to grow an alliance, and I'm sick of it. It's painful. It really is.
Oh, here comes the Asians here.
I think that,
I'm done with that. Enough. Let me see what y'all got to say about it before I jump into my next segment on what we get wrong about the racial wealth gap. I'm just going to do one section of it before I transition to Jeremiah Wright. I don't really want to keep you guys over 2 hours. Let's see what y'all got to say, my co-hosts. Brian says, those are staggering numeric differences, but Asians are victims. Yeah, right. You heard it. Good evening, Lady Big Mouth. Good evening. Hello, my loves. We still love you, though. You're loud, Big Mouth. I know. Yes, it is loud. I get upset, y'all. Miss Lady K Love says, to Leslie Jones, I salute you. Hey, now. I loved her in that. And Coming to America. We already on it. Greetings, family. Glad to be in the service. Thank you, Toolbox Evolution. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to read the more pertinent ones. But Asians beat on Africans and ADOS women, though. Absolutely, Lady K Love. But they're the ones that need protections. Jim Crow Sloppy Joe protects the Asians. And we don't even have an anti-lynch law yet. Stop giving your money. Family, I say, this is what Jenny Mai's Asian splaining tears were all about. Cherie Thomas is absolutely right. Stop patronizing them. Find Black-owned businesses that do the same thing I have. For my nails and my feet. And I just buy Black every time I get an opportunity. Don't shop with them on Amazon. Don't go to the nail salons or the beauty supply stores. There are Black folks in this space now selling hair. Find them. When that bag dries up, because that's exactly what her Asian splaining tears were about. That bag is about to dry up because y'all won't tell the T.R. Ruth up in this piece that you've got anti-Black sentiment as you lay Black. I said it. If I like some Asians, it's because I know them on a personal level. Yeah, that's everybody. We got allies. We got folks to know the truth, but they need to gather their people up. White allies need to get your white people together. Asian allies need to get your Asian folk together. And Latina ally need to get your people together. Yes, Eddie Murphy did touch on LGBTQ. Thank you, Miss Lady K Love. He absolutely did. I told you, he's got some real conscientious things happening in that movie. And white folks would love nothing more than for it to be a fail. That's exactly what they want to do. You know, I learned a long time ago that I don't take people's word about other folks. I find out for myself. And guess what I find out oftentimes? That was between her and her. It had nothing to do with me. So I don't judge people based on other people's judgment of anything. You tell me not to watch it, especially if you white, and you tell me not to watch it, now I got to go see. Whatever white folks do, we got to do the opposite. If they go left, we need to go right. That's how it works in everything. If white folks endorse it, you've got to go against it, okay? That's how we win. He sure did. That's no small feat to hire all those Black actors and actresses. You better know it. Michael Cooper, welcome to the live. Okay, it looks like, oh, Lord have mercy. Let me go back. It jumps sometime, y'all. I see Oliver Tanja. Thank you for joining the live, my love. Okay. Oh, she did. What I do now? Girl, you know me, this stuff, woo. Yes, it's woo, but we need to know it. You can't fix what you can't face, my loves. You got to face it. And I know it's hard because let me tell you something. I take to my bed Monday through Thursdays. I come on here Friday and Sunday. Might reduce it to one show a week. It's a lot to get psychologically and mentally ready to show what's happening to our people whose ancestors built this country with their lives. Let me calm down. I'm not screaming at y'all. Y'all know I'm passionate. You have to turn down your volume because I probably won't. Oh, my God. Okay. I jumped too far. I'm trying to do y'all's comments so I can do the rest of the show. What we don't get about closing the racial wealth gap is like 67 pages, but I'm only going to do it in baby increments. Deal with one category at a time. Let's see here. And they messing with me, y'all. As a matter of fact, thank you. I just thought about something. I did not read my copyright disclaimer, Fair Use Act. Okay, let me do that because they're giving me copyright strikes in the whole 9 yards for the littlest of things. Do you hear me? So let me read it because this too will get shut down. If you don't see me, it's because they are censoring and striking and hiding my videos. So please go on the YouTube, which seems to be a little bit, eensy bit more liberal than Facebook. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, get the algorithms up. Because when you do, it enables more people to find me. Like, you know, I got a tiny following. I may get 1,000 views. I mean, These other shows getting like 100,000 people watching. So that's what we're on the road to. We got to reach critical mass because a revolution is being social mediaized, okay? So let me also wave my banner while I'm looking this up. I want to thank you to all of you who have contributed to my educating the masses and advocacy work. I appreciate you so much. And that's the way you can do it at Cash App, $FOADOS TV. And then I have a PayPal there as well. So thank you for those of you who have contributed. Okay, so I wanted to read the Fair Use Act because I want to cover myself with what I just shared from the reel. They're going to come for me for that one because they don't like me talking about it in this context. They never like it when we stand up for ourselves, family. When we make it about American descendants of chattel slavery exclusively, they come for your jugular. They come for your show. They come for your reputation. They try to bury you. They censor you. They won't censor the girls fighting and twerking and, they won't censor none of that. But they live on my pages. So if you don't see me for a while, it's because I'm in Facebook jail or YouTube knocked me off, whatever. Just know that the show must go on. And as soon as I'm able to go live, I'm back. Fair Use Act, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 76, allowance made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Okay. So let me go back to the comments. Now that we got that out the way. Okay. Anderson Cooper, thank you. Yeah, I posted a meme of Anderson Cooper's, basically saying folks don't watch us anymore. They done figured us out. That, yeah, you are, in fact, the corporate pays news media. Doing everything you can to undermine American descendants of chattel slavery. But us, the new black media, will not allow it. He should, okay, yep, hiring 6,000 of us, so please support. Thank you, Jeremiah Thompson. Welcome to the live. He gave me that Anderson Cooper reference. I just love how my audience listens to me. Michael Cooper, hello, my love. Let's see here. Oh, hell, she coming for the yay. Liar. Hell, white supremacist cops murder black folks at the BART station. Come on, Toolbox Evolution. And I'm not trying to minimize the fact that their elders have been knocked down. But hey, prove it's all black. You can't. You won't. Most of the videos show white supremacists doing this as these Asians like Jenny Mai continue this narrative as if we're in a position to be racist. Racist requires wealth, requires power, of which we have neither. So that's why I'm saying let's hit them in the pocketbook and show them. Since we are large contributors to their $326 billion. That's damn near half of what we share between 35 million. Do you get that? We shared less than 700 billion since COVID, and their businesses did around 326 billion. You got to be able to put this together or come over to the show and I'll put it together for you. Yeah, murdered at the BART station. Just murdered for being black. Get arrested for nothing. Mute your mic to stop the feedback. Uh-oh. Well, if I mute my mic, you won't be able to hear me, will you? Oh, I guess you said when I play the video. Okay. Thank you, Jeremiah. I'll try to remember that. I don't think I have any more videos to share, but I didn't know there was any feedback. Usually I can hear it. My apologies. Brian says they're using random anecdotal experience to make this seem like an all-out war by blacks against Asian Americans. You're right. Some of these stories date many years back. But do you see the trickery here? How they want to bring these things up so we will get off of the reparations. That's what they're trying to do. They want us to get off reparations and Black Lives Matter. And that's what I can't stand about the Democrats having a trifecta, because it puts the sheeple back to sleep. So nobody wants to make noise about these things but the rest of us American descendants of chattel slavery who started all this in the first place. No, we did not start the narrative on reparations, but we are the ones in our recent activity as of late to bring it to the forefront and to make HR 40 that had dust collecting on it prior to our engagement. We brought that out of hiding. It still needs a lot of edits. So please visit Fix HR 40. I will share it momentarily. I don't want to lose my place in the comments. Two Box Evolution. I will be giving them $0 for a damn thing ever again. Thank you. Hold on one second. This is what we must do. This is what we must do. The white supremacist in all colors. If they're black white supremacists, if they're a black immigrant white supremacist, if they're an Asian white supremacist, a Latina Asian white supremacist, starve them out. They've earned, predominantly off of us, damn near half of what we share collectively as 35 million in this country. 10% of us share 2.3 trillion. More lies to make you think we're winning. Now, if we're 90% American descendant of chattel slavery and black immigrants are about 10 to 14%, so let's say roughly 86 to 90, they're roughly 10 to 14%. Who do you think you sharing 2.3 trillion? And who do you think is sharing less than 700 billion? How are we in their neighborhoods doing this kind of stuff to them? And I just showed you the stats. But this is to get you, like folks was crying over the babies at the DACA borders. This is to get you crying over everybody. Your energy so expended all over the place trying to save and rescue everyone but your own people. You've got none for yourself. And then you've got the nerve to sit up here and disparage Adocs for even needing you. Don't want to do that work. Not y'all. Y'all are the conscientious ones putting in work, and I'm grateful. But there are many that need this message amongst us, that it's time to put up a gate and be about Adocs exclusively. I don't have energy for no one else. I don't have any more tears for no one else. Understand that. So now you feel like we do as ADOS. So child, please. Miss Lady K Love. Absolutely. And they don't, not really. Okay? It's fake. It's fake because they don't want the world watching the fact that we're at George Floyd 846. They don't want the UN to champion our reparations. They don't want anyone supporting that. And like Dr. Claude Anderson told you at the top of the show, we are on our way to being fourth-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives. If you think you got nothing as number 2, wait till number 4. We've got to stop it. And that's my square. I'm here to stop it in whatever little microcosm way I can with this show. But y'all beat on blacks, though. Honey, you can look up any video and see them beating the brakes off of black folks that patronize their businesses after their wounds heal. We're traumatized people. And they own us and our communities and want to sit up here and do that white supremacist number by flipping white supremacy on ADOCs who have no power to exert any form of racism or white supremacists against them. Niecy Lord, welcome to the live, my love. She says, miss me with it. Absolutely. Lady K Love, y'all discriminate against blacks, but you want us to feel sorry for y'all. Ain't it deep? You see? But this is how the corporate news media with 3 Ks drove 87% of our electorate to the polls. They actually convinced our electorate that replacing a racist in office of 4 years was more sound than replacing racists in office a combined 65 years with records against Adocs to prove it. That's why myself and the Black Authority and, all these new Black medias out here, Be the Power, 13%, there's so many. Tim Black, the African Diaspora, who else? African Black Goddess TV, Queen Amadah Shakur, Dr. Shauna Etienne, Karen Hunter Show, In Class with Dr. Carr. This is why we're over here. Because we've got to teach you about your Adocsness as it relates to America with 3 Ks, so that you can weaponize your vote and socialize this suffering before we are extinct like the Indians up in this piece. Toolbox Revolution said, this show be getting me a little heated. Well, welcome to my world. Yeah, my heat loves your heat. My heat loves your company. You understand? Let me tell you something. This is therapy for me. I have to get it off my chest. I can't keep all this inside of me, so I have to bring it to you. And I thank you for even caring enough to show up, because you could do like far too many and bury your head and go off into outer space, like my daughter said when she was around 7 or so. Her teachers were like, could you please tell her to stop singing her responses? She just checks out. And I asked her, I said, why are you checking out when you're in class? What are you doing when you check out and you're not listening to the teacher? She says, oh, I just go into outer space and go save people. I said, heavens to Murgatroyd, if you don't get your mind back in that classroom and get your education, there is going to be serious problems over here. So I thank you guys for being heated with me, for being fired up and ready to do something about it with me, and not checking out into outer space to go and rescue people. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you and I love you, Black and Strong. Okay, I'm reading more comments. Yeah, it's your karma. And that was another piece. I didn't want to play it, but Lonnie Love was going on about how they learned anti-Black sentiment since being in this country. No, they haven't. This is going on over in their country. Look it up. Look it up. Look at what they're doing to the Africans in their own countries. Look it up. This ain't new or exclusive to the racist education they get over here about Adocs. This is who they are and how they're wired as a people. Not all, some exceptions, but by and large, this is what they do against Black. Well, we are the creators of all of it. Everything was birthed from Blackness. That's a whole nother show. I'm not going there. What goes around comes around. You know it. Brian Johnson says, notice how George Floyd being choked to death translated into legislation to protect Asians. Make that make sense. Well, they've got something out right now. Let me look it up since we're on that topic. I said I would share about it. It's a George Floyd bill that passed that looked like they're trying to get George Floyd bill. Looks like they're trying to actually get rid of qualified immunity. House Resolution 7120. The bill establishes new requirements for law enforcement officers and agencies, including to report data on use of force incidents to obtain. Oh, they don't need no training. Come on now. Y'all know who y'all hired. Okay, so the House approved it. Now, the House approved it. But understand something, family. The Senate has yet to. Number one, The Congress has yet to pass an anti-lynch law. I just don't want y'all to get super uber excited over this, okay? And 8 Democrats just voted down $15 minimum wage when the median house costs around $350,000 in this country. In the U.S., the median house costs around $350,000. I'm rounding up, 340 something, whatever. But these Mickey Thickies, 8 Democrats, just voted down $15 minimum wage. And you want to sit up here and argue with me that the Democrats aren't the Republicans in Democratic clothing. You want to argue me down that the Democrats and the Republicans are 2 wings of the same oligarch bird. Yeah. So the House approved the police reform bill named after George Floyd. This was March 3rd, 2021. House lawmakers on Wednesday passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, a reform bill that would ban chokeholds and after so-called and alter so-called qualified immunity. Alter, not dismantle, not decimate. Look at the words, y'all. For law enforcement, which would make it easier to pursue claims of police misconduct. The 220 to 212 vote, mostly along party lines, came 9 months after Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, was killed by Minneapolis police officers last spring. The wide-ranging legislation would also ban no-knock warrants in certain cases, mandate data collection on police encounters, prohibit racial and religious profiling, and redirect funding to community-based policing programs. Let me go back and make a point. These Mickey Thickies don't need to be trained. You need to hire people who aren't the race soldiers. In 2006, the FBI told you the KKK has infiltrated the police forces all throughout the country. How about not hiring them? They don't need training not to murder and execute and annihilate their own people for jogging or standing at the bar or sleeping or watching sports in their own homes or driving while black. They don't need to be trained not to execute their own. So this ain't a training issue. The issue is you have hired the overseer. That's the issue. Black and white alike. That's what you've done. So miss me with it. Okay? Quote, never again should an unarmed individual be murdered or brutalized by someone who was supposed to serve and protect them, said Representative Karen Bass, California, in a statement. Never again should the world be subjected to witnessing what we saw happen to George Floyd in the streets of Minnesota. That part. My third eye tells me that's why the stuff I'm seeing in the social media spaces, you're not seeing on the corporate news network. Never again should the world be subjected to witnessing what we saw happen to George Floyd in the streets of Minnesota. Had the world not seen what happened to George Floyd in the streets of Minnesota, Black Lives Matter wouldn't be 90 million enriched in 2020. Had the world not seen it. Had the world not seen 8 minutes, 46 seconds for some reason, amidst all the things they've seen, that struck a nerve. And let's understand how it was weaponized because of Trump. They made a big, huge deal of it because Trump was in office. But they've gone silent on the ones that are happening right now with Biden and Kamala in office. Use your third eye. In debate on the House floor Wednesday evening before the vote, Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota said Minneapolis is still traumatized by Floyd's death. Time and time again, we have witnessed the people who are sworn to protect our communities abuse their power, she said. But Biden, whom y'all elected, 87% of our electorate, not me. I did not vote for the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow Sloppy Joe. That was not my vote. But 87% of us showed up, and he pins as an executive order protections for the Asians. He does not make an executive order of the anti-lynch bill that still ain't been made into law. You know that strange fruit that Billie Holiday sang about? And this was not an immediate executive order. But the Asians got protection. Worth $640,000 median income in the country. To Adocs, $17,150. Who do you think the race soldiers are? Where do you think they're going to be placed? In the Asian communities or in the Black communities? But no executive orders. We got to do this bull. They were damn near split down the middle in the House. On whether or not to what? Ban no-knock warrants in certain cases. Mandate data collection on police encounters. Prohibit racial and religious profiling. And redirect funding to the community-based policing programs. And to ban chokeholds and alter the so-called qualified immunity for law enforcement. To Brian's point, in debate on the House floor Wednesday evening before the vote, Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota and Minneapolis is still traumatized by Floyd's death. Okay, I think I did that part. Last year, the House passed a similar version of the bill, but it failed in the Republican-controlled Senate. This time around, Senate Democrats would have to sway at least 10 Republican members for the bill to pass. Good luck with that. When 8 Democrats were a no to a $15 minimum wage. We can't even get all the Democrats on board. Republicans say the legislation goes too far and would prevent police from doing their jobs effectively. Republican Representative Carlos Jimenez, will I tell y'all about them immigrant white oppressors of Florida, said on the House floor Wednesday that the bill would weaken and possibly destroy our community's police forces. Earlier this week, the Biden administration released a statement urging the House to vote in favor of the proposal. Quote, to make our communities safe, we must begin by rebuilding trust between law enforcement and the people they are entrusted to serve and protect. The statement said, we cannot rebuild that trust if we do not hold police officers accountable for abuses of power and tackle systemic misconduct and systemic racism in police departments. This is how they get you sleepwalking to the polls. They say things like they about that life, right? Only to do nothing in the form of an executive order for our protection. On Monday, President Biden also pushed for its passage on Twitter. Following Senate consideration, I hope to be able to sign into law a landmark police reform bill. He said, I don't understand why you don't have the power to make this an executive order. I know that Congress can make it stick. Okay, I get that part. Because the next person could just come in and undo it. But I can almost guarantee you, just like $15 minimum wage did not pass, neither will this. The trial of Derek Chauvin, the former police officer charged with killing Floyd, is scheduled to begin in Minneapolis on March 8th. So you see the correlation. While folks is running around here trying to protect Asians from nothing, I said it. Everybody will be distracted and not focus on the fact that Chauvin is probably about to walk. They may make an example of him, but I'm just telling you, all distractions are equal. Stay in your square, Adocs. Reparations. Now. Heavy security measures, including barricades and fencing around the courthouse, have been put in place ahead of the trial. Of course it has. for when he walks. And thousands of police officers and National Guard personnel are set to be present in Minneapolis next week. What they getting ready for, y'all? The other officers involved in Floyd's killing will be tried at a separate hearing in August. To Brian's point. Thank you, co-host. Ooh-wee. Cherie says, my message was deleted. Did I do something wrong? No, my love. What message did I delete of yours? Please type it again. I'm just scrolling through. I flash it on the screen. But I don't flash everything on the screen, and I've not deleted anything. I don't delete. Now, if you call me out my name, not only do I delete it, I delete you. So, as long as you're playing fair, listen, I don't mind difference of opinions. I love to challenge them. One guy was trying to take me to task. I asked him for the data. I still haven't heard back from him. Okay, so you see how that works. That's one thing Yvette Carnell taught me. Be about that data. Therefore, I'm grateful. Sis, mine too. Oh no, I'm not deleting anybody's comments. So I don't know what's happening. I'm telling you, ScrewTube and Racebook are probably doing something. I don't know. I don't know how they could be erasing comments though. It's in my thread. So I'm not doing it. But they got so much going on with censoring me. Last year, Asians were beating and discriminating against blacks heavily. Look at what they did over in China to blacks, but we are supposed to feel sorry for them. Not only are we supposed to feel sorry for them, sis, we're supposed to believe corporate news media and these Asians blaming it on Adocs because they found one with an afro in the video I just showed that pushed Asian gentleman down, and apparently he died or whatever the story is. Furthermore, as I mentioned prior, they're using a lot of old news stories to make much ado about nothing. Now, I'm not saying that pushing down the elderly is not a thing. I feel for those people, but I feel like it really distracts from the bigger narrative about Black Lives Mattering and reparations. And I believe that's by design of institutional systemic racism and our white oppressors in all colors, because the color of white oppression is green. The color of white inferiority is green in this country. They're the racist. I believe that this is what's happening as a result of that. They don't want us on Black Lives Mattering because they want to continue to kill and execute us with impunity. State-sanctioned executions, government-sanctioned executions, yes. They want to continue the preschool to prison pipeline. They want to continue to deny us the trillions we're owed over multi-generations. So they're coming up with anything they can to see what sticks. And I'm saying to boycott the Asians until they feel it in their pockets. So they will get off this nonsense that Jenny Mae was just on about some conflict between us and trying to lie and act as if we've got the money to be in their communities shopping while they own everything in our communities. There's nowhere else to turn to shop because we don't get small business loans like that. The majority of our small businesses are sole proprietors. Anywho, moving on. Censorship is being done on all social media platforms. You're right about that. What's up, Gibson Eugene? Welcome to the live, my love. Listen, it's never too Adocs over here, baby. You can say it. I'm not deleting it, okay? I don't know what happened. I ain't deleting nothing. Brian C. Johnson, didn't know we had an allyship with Asians. They don't come here to be bothered with us. Come on now, they come here to make money off of us. She's speaking in terms of allyship because she don't want to ruin the bag for her people. Brian, they're no allies. I mean, some of them, let me tell you something. Some of them were absolutely a yes on that call to keep our affirmative action. I don't know if I lost my trail on that story, but basically Ward Connerly, Adocs, overturned our affirmative actions with Prop 209. We've gone from 16 to 5%, not even 6% anymore. 5% or less since COVID. I don't even know the numbers post. I know folks are getting up out of here 40 going north. Black folks are leaving California. They can't afford to be here. Okay. They simply cannot afford it when they 200 liquid. To Asian Indians, 465,000 liquid. Those are Kamala's people. Okay. So it's rough down here on Adocs. Peter Lang of the NYPD wasn't convicted. Let off killing a black man. I think he was convicted. I think I read an article where he was convicted. Michael Cooper, welcome to the live. I think so. I think he was convicted, but I know the Asians came out in full force. I just read an article where he was convicted after the jury held the weight of his 9mm Glock that executed the young man in his stairwell. I don't know how much time he's got. Let's look it up while we're on it. Peter Liang. Is he in jail? Okay. Uh-oh, I forgot the G. Hold on, y'all. I like to look things up. On April 19, 2016, Brooklyn Supreme Court Justice Danny Chun sentenced, one of their very own, sentenced Peter Liang to 5 years of probation and 800 hours of community service. Chun believes incarceration is unnecessary, but he will be much more productive if he spends more time in community service. For executing Akai Gurley, he won't see jail time as a manslaughter charge. Former New York Police Department officer Peter Liang was sentenced Tuesday in court for the fatal shooting of Akai Gurley in November 2014. He shot him in a Brooklyn housing project, a sentence that drew anger from Gurley's friends and family who packed the courtroom. Justice Danny Chun gave him protection. He will also serve 3 years probation concurrently on misconduct. So he got 8 years probation, but he's a free man. Brooklyn DA Ken Thompson had originally recommended 5 years probation, along with 6 months of home confinement and 500 hours of community service. Robert Brown, one of Liang's attorneys, told NBC News it could take around 5 months for Liang to complete his community service. Chun also reduced Liang's second-degree manslaughter charge to criminally negligent homicide, meaning Liang failed to perceive the risk that his actions would lead to Gurley's death. For reckless manslaughter, Liang faced up to 15 years in prison. I find that given the defendant's background and given how remorseful he is, that it would not be necessary to incarcerate the defendant to have a just sentence in this case, Chun said Tuesday. Melissa Butler, who was with Gurley the night he was killed, and Kim Bollinger, Gurley's domestic partner and mother of his daughter, addressed the court before Chun handed down his sentence. Peter Liang, I want you to know that when you stole Akai's life, you stole mine as well, Butler said, facing the judge and reading from a sheet of paper. Butler was in the unit stairwell of the Louis H. Pink houses with Gurley when Liang, who was on patrol, accidentally fired a shot that ricocheted off the wall and hit Gurley. Akai took his last breath and died in my hands. Bollinger spoke next. Akai was a great father to our child, Akaila, she said. He would get Akaila from school, play with her all the time. Every day, Akaila asked, why was her dad killed by a police officer? What did he do? Before the judge announced his sentence, Liang also gave a statement at one point, turning around to apologize to Butler and the Gurley family. Judge, my life is forever changed, he said. I hope you give me a chance to rebuild it. In a statement following the sentencing, Thompson disagreed with Chun's decision to reduce the charges. While our sentencing recommendation was fair under the unique circumstances of this case, we respectfully disagree with the judge's decision to reduce the jury's verdict and will fight to reverse it on appeal. Upon exiting the courtroom, Hortensia Peterson, Gurley's aunt, said, Akai's life does not matter. Black lives do not matter. But don't worry, justice will be served one way or another. Sylvia Palmer, Gurley's mother, didn't speak with reporters after the sentencing, but did issue a statement. Judge Chun's sentencing decision today is an insult to the life of Akai Gurley, to me as his mother, to all families whose loved ones have been killed by police, and all New Yorkers, she said. Outside the courthouse, supporters of Gurley and of Liang gathered to respond to the news. NYPD barricades were set up to pin in protesters along J Street, while dozens of officers stood watch. To the extent that there's no jail time and no home confinement, we feel that the pressure is off, Doug Lee, a Liang supporter, told NBC News. Lee added that he still believes Liang was selectively prosecuted. Okay, I can't read any more of this. I just wanted to let you know that the jury found him guilty. Chun, but he was only guilty of manslaughter. And, Chun did not really give him any time for anything. And yet, Jim Crow Sloppy Joe gives the Asians the protection. Makes me want to holler. March of 91, Soon killed Latasha Harlins, and Soon was let off with a slap on the wrist. Fine. But the Asians need protection from American descendants of chattel slavery. Can anyone find me a story where we've done anything to them? Besides that one seemingly black man with a fro in the video I shared earlier pushing down someone. Oliver Tanja, yep, also in the nail salons. Abuse of black women in the nail salons. This is why we must boycott. We must find black people to do this for us. We must. Trey X, what's up, fam? Thank you for joining the live. I was debating an Asian on Twitter. I told him I was trying to make this into a thing, even though the data does not support his stance. Yep. Cherie, Thomas, you're right, sweetheart. They're going to defend. You saw Jenny Mai. They're also trying to justify any future legislation, crime bills, to address this alleged uptick in attacks on Asian Americans. You see? Just like our affirmative action. Let me go back to an earlier point. There were some Asians who came on for Prop 16, which is what we were trying to get passed here to reinstate our affirmative action. There were some Asians that came on that call and were a yes, but the majority were no when it was time to respond yes, and when it was time to respond no. Okay. They're also trying to justify any future legislation, crime bills, to address this alleged uptick in attacks on Asian Americans. But do they talk about the Asian American mafias and gangs like they do ours? They're quick to highlight black on black crimes and murders amongst us, but they won't talk about how Asian Americans and their little gangs and their little mafias are executing each other. You see? Corporate news media with 3 Ks. No, she didn't. I don't know what I did. And if we ask about the crimes, Cherie says, and if we ask about the crimes that do happen, isn't because Asians are in our neighborhoods extracting resources. Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. We patronize there, and y'all need to stop eating at these fast food Asian joints. I saw a video by Queen Ahmadad Shakur that was harrowing. To see the disgusting habits of these people behind the scenes, mopping the floor from sink water boiled on top of the stovetop, rats climbing all over the desserts and pastries and things, rats all behind the scene. One fool urinated in the water fountain. They don't wash their hands. Y'all need to stop immediately eating at these places unless they have an A rating. But we patronize all this and then we become the face of anti-Asian racism. That's why I have to come and talk to y'all about it. Brian says they're in black neighborhoods because they own those stores while we don't own anything. Exactly. She want to sit up here and try to juxtapose what they're able to do in our communities with us in their communities. As if we own the proportionate amount of businesses in the Asian community is what she was trying to allude to. Until she decided to go to customers. Yeah, down in Chinatown and places where they own all of it. I share with you $326 billion with a B. It's what they're worth as they try to make us the face of anti-Asian sentiment. Yeah, we patronize them, and this is the thanks we get. They get in bed with white supremacy, not call it out. She is talking about a cartoon fantasy world where blacks and Asians are on an equal economic level, says Brian. Cherise says, meanwhile, we are being killed in our homes and streets by the race soldiers. Oliver says, I wonder what her black boyfriend thinks. Allegedly, they're married now. Jeezy. Let's see how much he's worth. And let's see how much she's worth. Jeezy's net worth. His net worth is estimated to be $15 million. He's got 3 kids, Jadarius, Shaheem, and Amra Noor Jenkins. He's reportedly engaged to longtime girlfriend Mahi. They spelled it wrong. And let's see what Jenny Maya's net worth is. Oh, she's the one that got the come up. Well, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like his net worth is more than hers. Let's see here. Okay. Oh. Okay, so her assets include a $1.2 million home she was awarded in her divorce from her first husband, Freddie Hardy's. He was white. All that combines to put the celebrity stylist net worth at somewhere between 2 and 4 million per cheat sheet in celebrity net worth. She can afford to buy all the vows. Oh, whatever the hell. Okay, so she's between 2 and 4 million net worth, and he's 15 million. So he decided to enrich her community. I don't even know, have they married yet? Let's check that out. Easy and Jeannie. Easy and Jenny Mai married. They're not married. The real co-host and Dancing with the Stars contestant Jenny Mai has not married her rapper fiance Jeezy. That's October 8, 2020. So she ain't got to come up yet. Preferably he'll come to his senses and marry an American descendant of chattel slavery, which I do believe he is, and keep that wealth circulating by buying black. pay them under the table. Yeah. We own, yep, we own our jobs. That's it, darling. Oliver Tanja says we own our jobs. Soul props mostly. Minority, people of color, BIPOC, all deceptive terms. Brian Johnson is absolutely right. Aren't we all biracial? Once they stopped the African slave trade, they set up breeding farms where we were raped by our masters and had to mate with our men who weren't our husbands. We had to lay with them and pop out children to the tune of 4 million strong by the time we were emancipated. Trojan horse is BS, and she's going to get blacks to co-sign to this foolery. Brian C. Johnson, you're absolutely right. She already did. Lonnie Love was on there talking nonsense. I just couldn't go into all of that because, you know, my God, I'm already at 7:50. Oh, you're so trained. Thank you so much for joining the live, my love. We love you. I love you black and strong. Yes, I do. I love y'all so much. I really do. Melanated Integrity, welcome to the live. If they block you, we will gladly broadcast you for the free hashtag free Angela. Mike Michelson did a campaign like that too. It was hilarious. Y'all know when y'all don't hear my mouth on a regular, I usually am in Facebook jumping up and down in all caps. Sometimes that means I'm screaming. Sometimes it's just easier on my eyes to type it all, and it's faster. You just put it on caps and keep going. All that initial cap, ain't nobody got time for that. Economic disobedience. You are our spokesperson, Melanated Integrity says. Darling, and I'm proud to represent Adocs. Loud and proud. You sound great on Facebook. Thank you, my love. Adocs, American Descendants of Slavery, agrees. Thank you for joining the live, my love. Imagine what they are doing to us in our neighborhoods. Okay? If we keep it up, we're going to vote, Kate, and breed ourselves right out of existence. Yes, I said it, and it deserves to be shown in all its truth. If we keep this up, we're going to vote, Kate, and breed ourselves right out of existence. I love you for it, Brian. I think I'm rubbing off on you. All right, so we've got more teaching. I hope y'all got your libations, because I got to go in on my reading, and then I got to close us out with prayer, and I've got to, I've got to go to my reading for today. The Miseducation of Adocs in America with 3K's book club series presents What We Get Wrong About the Racial Wealth Gap. Okay, I'm going to read a little segment of that. Then I'm going to transition to talk about the very revolutionary social justice activist, Jeremiah Wright. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. He is the freedman I'm choosing to honor as a part of my Freedman History Day, every day of the year. Okay. Let me see my official title. I'm still working with the title. What I do know is that a month is not nearly enough. So get your libations, your chamomile, your little wine, whatever you want to relax and just listen to me go in, because I'm not done. And we're already almost at 2 hours. If you have to go, I understand it's late on the East Coast. And I love you, Black and Strong. Just know that. And you can always pick the show back up at another time. I lost my train of thought about what I was about to do next. I'm just going to leave that comment up there for a little minute because it makes me happy, Brian. I can't read the rest of y'all's comments. I love y'all, but I really have to get going on your other part of your education tonight. I thank you for tuning in. I want to get to my article, my PDF, what we get wrong about the racial wealth gap. Now, because I've been trying to get to this series for a while, you have to understand this to get in the support of reparations. It is what is owed for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And what you must understand about why I continue to educate you guys on using current events, different books, and different stories about freedmen is that we're not going to make it without reparations. White folks' net worth is currently around 171,000 to Adocs 17,150. We're talking about net worth. And I already just shared with you that the Asians are over 600,000. They're 6 times, what is that? About 3 times more wealthy than white folks, but they're only 18 million. You know, white folks keep themselves in the majority by making all these immigrant groups white. That's how they do it. Just look up how the Irish were made white, how the Jews were made white, how the Italians were made white, how the Hispanics are now being made white. Yeah, Asians are made white. We simply don't have the complexion for the protection, okay? Black immigrants are made white by the weight of their green, like the likes of Barack Obama. He's worth, since 2016, around $40 million as he sits up here and plays with our reparations. Anyway, so let's get into tonight's reading. Let me see here. Okay, I'm not going to read the intro because I'm running out of time, but let me just talk about myth number 1. Greater educational attainment or more work effort on the part of Blacks will close the racial wealth gap. A common sense hypothesis ascribes disparities in wealth mainly to differences in the level of education. A college degree is associated with higher earnings and more stable employment, even in times of economic crises. This is from Day and Newberger, 2002, Chung, Davies, and Fitzgerald, 2010 research. Families with college-educated heads appear to accumulate more wealth than families with heads with lower levels of education over a lifetime. Therefore, higher education often has been touted as the great equalizer, as a mechanism to reduce the wealth gap between whites and Blacks. According to this logic, we would expect Blacks and whites with similar levels of education to display comparable levels of wealth. Figure 1 summarizes our findings when we compare wealth levels for heads of households with the same educational attainment across racial groups, both for Blacks and whites. Median household wealth increases as a head of household obtains higher levels of education. However, it is apparent that for Blacks, getting a college degree or a graduate degree is far from sufficient to close the egregious racial wealth gap. At every level of education attainment, the median wealth among Black families is substantially lower than white families. White households with a bachelor's degree or postgraduate education, such as with a PhD, MD, and JD, are more than 3 times as wealthy as Black households with the same degree attainment. More on average, a Black household with a college-educated head has less wealth than a white family whose head did not even obtain a high school diploma. It takes a postgraduate education for a Black family to have comparable levels of wealth to a white household with some college education or an associate degree. Hamilton et al. 2015 and Machede et al. 2017, who used the panel study of income dynamics. So I want to share my screen so we can see. Let me share. Okay. Hold on, guys. Make sure you can see it. Okay, so let's get into it. Yeah, these are the myths. When we keep pushing our children into education, we don't tell them how much education they need to be on equal footing. Hold on. And so let's talk about this. So let's go down from less than high school. Blacks, median household net worth by race and education. So with less than high school, our net worth is $2,775. To white folks, $82,968. When it comes to blacks with a high school diploma, our median net worth is $6,600. To white folks, $118,580. When it comes to some college, blacks net worth $18,200. To white folks, $134,415. When you have a degree, as a black person, your median net worth is around $70,219. To white degreed, $268,028. And when you do a post-college education, black people have a median net worth of $141,115 compared to whites, $455,212. But the Justice Democrats want to erase student loan debt. And that helps you how? The sheeple boomers keep stressing education will close the over $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. I can't tell. I can't tell. I'm going to stop sharing at this point so I can finish reading. Furthermore, low family wealth can have an adverse effect on the next generation's educational attainment. Erasing student loan debt is just another white wealth transfer. Back to the text. Black students are more likely to take on student loans and accumulate student loan debt. And they are more likely than white students to drop out of a university because of financial concerns. Ironically, their wealth position could deteriorate because of their intense motivation to pursue higher education. Another commonly held misconception is that Black families have a cultural predisposition to undervalue education. Black parents are alleged to invest insufficiently in their children's education. However, the best evidence indicates that Black families controlling for household type and socioeconomic status tend to be more supportive than white families of their children's education through direct financial support. Black parents who provide some support for their children's higher education have 2/3 of the median net worth of white parents who provide no support for their children's higher education. For given levels of household income, parental education attainment, and or parental occupational status, Black youth also get more years of schooling and acquire more credentials than white youth whose parents have a similar status. White education does not appear to be the great equalizer. It could be argued alternatively that hard work can close the wealth gap. Since blacks face a higher unemployment rate than whites at every level of education, the difference in wealth ultimately could be due to the difference in employment status. If that were the case, we would observe similar levels of wealth for blacks and whites with similar employment statuses. But figure 2 contradicts such an expectation. As one would expect, the median household wealth is higher for employed families than for unemployed families in both races. However, white households with an employed head have more than 10 times higher wealth than similar black households. Furthermore, white households with an unemployed head have a higher net worth than black households with a head who is working full time. Let's share the screen again for this table. So let's go down the rung. Unemployed, the net worth by race and employment status, $1,300 net worth to white folks, $55,710. Out of labor, $1,700 is the median household net worth for Adocs, as compared to white folks, $75,335. Full time, black folks net worth $11,000 to white folks $144,220. And Barack Obama is a no on reparations. Or more recently, he kind of said we sort of kind of contributed to the wealth of this country, but not really. And that white folks would have resisted had he supported reparations. While he sits up as a descendant of slave owners and an African king and man with a net worth since 2016 of $40 million. In addition, higher levels of household income are not associated with significant reductions in the racial wealth gap. Figure 3 shows how black families have much lower wealth than white families, even when they have comparable earnings. In particular, black households in the lowest 20% of the income distribution essentially have zero net worth, while the poorest white families have on average 15 to 18,000 in net worth. I'm going to read that again. Black households in the lowest 20% of the income distribution have zero net worth as compared to the poorest white family who has on the average 15 to 18,000 in net worth. But y'all believe class-based policies fix race. Y'all believe in the Justice Democrat. Y'all believe in the liberals. You refuse to do as I have shared, which is to weaponize your vote and socialize your suffering. And I'll explain that momentarily after I'm almost done with this reading. Even belonging to the highest quintile does not make black families as wealthy as whites. Their median wealth is approximately half of that of white families in the same income quintile. The pattern is evident. Studying hard and working hard clearly is not enough for black families to make up for their marginalized financial position by the way of institutional systemic racism. All of what they earned was on the backs of our ancestors' heinous chattel slave labor, and they have made us niggers through the policies to rob us and to completely set us up to be wiped completely off the monopoly board. I have shared with you guys that under Obama, 1 million white millionaires were created by his policies. He bailed out Wall Street and the banks. He did not put any regulations or audits in place to guarantee that money, which was a portion of our tax dollars, came back to us for home ownership and small businesses. Over 53% of American descendants of chattel slavery lost wealth under Obama. And I've got a long way to go, along with the new black media and all the folks in the reparationist movement, to teach our people. I can't even get to white folks yet. I got to get our people together and get them off of this identity and respectability politics to our own people's peril. Well, that's my square. Median household net worth by race and household income quintile. This will be the last table I show. And then I'll get into the great Jeremiah Wright. Oh, Lord, what happened to my table? Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, Chrome tab. Let's talk about this table. This will be the last one, family. I'll do Jeremiah and then I'll pray us out. Okay, so let me see if I can blow this up any. I hope y'all can see that just fine over there. I'm going to read it anyway. If you can't see it, don't worry about it. So this is the median household net worth by race and household income quintile. So when you earn less than $26,580, your net worth is $200 when you're black, $18,361 net worth when you're white. If your income is between $26,581 and $48,480, your net worth is $7,600 to white folks, $61,070. Your income is between $48,481 and $75,936. Your net worth is $22,150 to white folks' net worth of $112,770. If your income is between $75,937 and $121,968, your net worth is $83,600 to white folks, $201,200. When you make more than $121,968, your median net worth is $262,800 compared to white folks, $518,271. So on Friday, I'll be digging into myth number 2, the racial home ownership gap as the driver of the racial wealth gap. Okay. Now on to Jeremiah Wright, the incomparable. Okay, I'm going to put an image of him up while I read about him. Bear with me, family. We're almost there. Thank you for hanging in there. Oh, yes. Thank you, family, for hanging in there. Please get the likes up. Please join me on YouTube because Facebook censors everything I do. They're gonna have a problem with this one. They are. They're going to have a problem with this one. I promise you that. Because, I'm exposing the truth. Let's see here. Share the screen. Hold on, family. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Where am I? I just pulled up his image and now I don't see it. Ain't this something? Hold on. Let's see if this is it. No. Where's that article? Okay, family. Give me 2 seconds. I like to show his image while I'm doing this. Let's see here. I don't see the article I just brought up. Application window, is it there? Hold on. Why does this have to be so difficult? I don't even know. This is ridiculous. I see all the Atlantics but the one I'm trying to bring up. Okay, family, let me just get into it. It's just becoming way too much. Just relax as I read this article about Jeremiah Wright. Here we go. No. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Let me just give me a second, family. I don't know what happened to my research on Jeremiah Wright. I'm gonna pull it back up. So Jeremiah Alvester Wright Jr. was born September 22nd, 1941. He is the pastor emeritus of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, a congregation he led for 36 years, during which its membership grew to over 8,000 parishioners. Following retirement, his beliefs and preaching were scrutinized when segments of his sermons about terrorist attacks on the U.S. and government dishonesty were publicized in connection with the presidential campaign of Barack Obama. He was born and raised in the racially mixed area of Germantown, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His parents were Jeremiah Wright Sr., 1909 to 2001, a Baptist minister who pastored Grace Baptist Church in Germantown from 1938 to 1980, and Mary Elizabeth Henderson Wright, a school teacher who was the first Black person to teach an academic subject at Roosevelt Junior High. She went on to be the first Black person to teach at Germantown High and Girls High, where she became the school's first Black vice principal. Wright graduated from Central High School of Philadelphia in 1959, among the best schools in the area at the time. At the time, the school was around 90% white. The 211th class yearbook described Wright as a respected member of the class, always ready with a kind word. Jerry is one of the most congenial members of the 211, the yearbook said. His record in Central is a model for lower class, younger members to emulate. Education and military service. From 1959 to 1961, Wright attended Virginia Union University in Richmond and is a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, Zeta chapter. In 1961, Wright left college and joined the U.S. Marine Corps and became part of the 2nd Marine Division, attaining the rank of Private First Class. In 1863, after 2 years of service, Wright joined the United States Navy and entered the Corpsman School at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center. Wright was then trained as a cardiopulmonary technician at the National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Wright was assigned as part of the medical team charged with care of President Lyndon B. Johnson. Before leaving the position in 1967, the White House physician, Vice Admiral Berkeley, personally wrote Wright a letter of thanks on behalf of the United States President. In 1967, Wright enrolled at Howard University in Washington, D.C., where he earned a bachelor's degree in 68 and a master's degree in English in 69. He also earned a master's degree from the University of Chicago Divinity School. Wright holds a Doctor of Ministry degree, 1990, from the United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio, my hometown, where he studied under Samuel DeWitt Proctor, a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. His wife is Rama Reed Wright. He has 4 daughters, Janet Marie Moore, Jerry Lynn Wright, Nicole D. Reed, and Jamila Nandi Wright, and 1 son, Nathan D. Reed. His career as a minister. Wright became pastor of the Trinity United Church of Christ, Chicago on March 1st, 1971. I gotta share his picture, family. I think I found a way. Yep, okay, that's better. Okay. Wright became pastor of the Trinity United Church of Christ, Chicago on March 1st, 1971. It had some 250 members on its rolls, but only about 90 or so were actually attending worship by that time. By March 2008, Trinity United Church of Christ had become the largest church in the mostly white United Church of Christ denomination. The president and general minister of the United Church of Christ, John Thomas, has stated, "It is critical that all of us express our gratitude and support to this remarkable congregation, to Jeremiah A. Wright, for his leadership over 36 years. Thomas, who is a member of the Pilgrim Congregational United Church of Christ in Cleveland, has also preached and worshiped at Trinity United Church of Christ, most recently on March 2nd, 2008. Trinity and Wright were profiled by correspondent Roger Wilkins in Sherry Jones's documentary, Keeping the Faith, broadcast as the June 1687 episode of the PBS series Frontline with Judy Woodruff. In 95, Wright was asked to deliver a prayer during an afternoon session of speeches at the Million Man March in Washington, D.C. Wright, who began the Ministers in Training program at Trinity United Church of Christ, has been a national leader in promoting theological education and the preparation of seminarians for the African American church. The church's mission statement is based upon systemized Black theology that started with the works of James Howell Cone. Wright has been a professor at Chicago Theological Seminary, Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, and other educational institutions. Wright has served on the Board of Trustees of Virginia Union University, Chicago Theological Seminary, and City Colleges of Chicago. He also served on the Board of Directors of Evangelical Health Systems, the Black Theology Project, the Center for New Horizons, and the Malcolm X School of Nursing, and on boards and committees of other religious and civic organizations. Wright attended a lecture by Frederick G. Sampson in Richmond, Virginia in the late 80s on the G.F. Watts painting Hope, which inspired him to give a sermon in 1990 based on the subject of the painting. With her clothes in rags, her body scarred and bruised and bleeding, her heart all but destroyed, and with only one thing left, she had the audacity to make music and praise God, to take the one string you have left, and to have the audacity to hope. That's the real word God will have us hear from this passage and from Watts' painting, close quote. Having attended Wright's sermon, Barack Obama later adapted Wright's phrase, audacity to hope, to audacity of hope, which became the title for his 2004 Democratic National Convention keynote address and the title of his second book. Controversies. Wright, who was Barack Obama's former pastor, gained national attention in March 2008 when ABC News, after reviewing dozens of Wright's sermons, excerpted parts which were subject to intense media scrutiny. Obama denounced the statements in question, but after critics continued to press the issue of his relationship with Wright, he gave a speech titled A More Perfect Union, in which he denounced Wright's remarks but did not disown him as a person. The controversy began to fade but was renewed in late April when Wright made a series of media appearances, including an interview on Bill Moyer's Journal, a speech at the NAACP, and a speech at the National Press Club. After the last of these, Obama spoke more forcefully against his former pastor, saying that he was outraged and saddened by his behavior. And in May, he resigned his membership in the church. On June 9, 2009, in an interview with the Daily Press of Newport News, Wright indicated that he hadn't had contact with Obama up to that point because them Jews aren't going to let him talk to me. I told my baby daughter that he'll talk to me in 5 years when he's a lame duck, or in 8 years when he's out of office. Wright also suggested that Obama did not send a delegation to the Durban Review Conference in Geneva on racism because of Zionist pressure, saying, quote, the Jewish vote, the AIPAC vote, that's controlling him. That would not let him send representation to the Durban Review Conference. That's talking this craziness on this trip because they're Zionists. They would not let him talk to someone who calls a spade what it is. Writing for The Atlantic, Ta-Nehisi Coates characterized Wright's remarks as crude, conspiratorial anti-Semitism. On June 11, 2009, Wright amended his remarks during an interview with Mark Thompson on his radio program, Make It Plain. Let me say, like Hillary, I misspoke. Let me say Zionist, I'm not talking about all Jews, all people of the Jewish faith. I'm talking about Zionist. Wright wrote on his Facebook page, apologizing for his remarks on June 12, 2009. He wrote, I misspoke, and I sincerely meant no harm or ill will to the American Jewish community or the Obama administration. I have great respect for the Jewish faith and the foundational and central part of our Judeo-Christian tradition. In other words, another Atlantic writer, Jeffrey Goldberg, alleged, he regrets speaking plainly instead of deploying a euphemism. The Anti-Defamation League released a statement condemning Wright's remarks as inflammatory and false. The notions of Jewish control of the White House in Reverend Wright's statement express classic anti-Semitism in its most vile form, close quote. In June 2011, in a speech of Empowerment Temple in Baltimore City, Wright called the state of Israel illegal and genocidal and insisted, quote, to equate Judaism with the state of Israel is to equate Christianity with rapper Flavor Flav. Retirement. Wright retired as pastor from Trinity United Church of Christ in early 2008. Over the course of his tenure, he brought the church's membership from 87 in 1972 to over 8,000 parishioners. Trinity United purchased a lot in Tinley Park, a predominantly white Chicago suburb, and built Wright a 10,340 square foot home valued at $1.6 million. In September 2016, Wright suffered a stroke, which paralyzed the left side of his body and left him confined to a wheelchair. Despite the effect on his voice, Wright continues to give sermons on certain occasions. His honors. Wright has received a Rockefeller Fellowship and 7 honorary doctorate degrees, including from Colgate University, Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, Valparaiso University, United Theological Seminary, Chicago Theological Seminary, and Starr King School for the Ministry. Wright was named one of Ebony Magazine's top 15 preachers. He was also awarded the first Carver Medal by Simpson College in January 2008 to recognize Wright as an outstanding individual whose life exemplifies the commitment and vision of the service of George Washington Carver. On May 1st, 2008, Northwestern University withdrew his invitation for him to receive an honorary doctorate in light of the controversy over his recent remarks. And his works are many. And that concludes my honoring Freedman, Reverend Jeremiah A. Wright. I love the revolutionary ones. Those are the ones I'll be highlighting, are the ones that aren't spoken about, the ones who are Adocs proud and call out the institutional systemic racism the way they see it, because they are my inspiration for doing the same at the reparationist perspective. I want to thank each and every one of you for being my co-host, for tuning in, for sharing, for liking, for supporting the show. I greatly appreciate you guys as a wind beneath my wing and the heart of my voice. I love you, Black and Strong. And with that said, I need to pray us out. The hour is late. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever American descendants of chattel slavery and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. And until Friday next week, let me back up. I forgot to tell you about weaponizing your vote and socializing your suffering. We must do it, family. It must be as commonplace as voting blue, no matter damn who. What I'm recommending is no different than Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, who stated, after Teddy Roosevelt dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man after being quarantined to their barracks after being accused of murdering the first, you shot us when our guns were empty. And for that, we are going to return the same by delivering a blue top and a red Congress to protect the Black South. I am recommending that we weaponize our vote by voting red top in a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of Adocs since COVID, who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism until we can replace the lanes with full-chested reparationists, which is the only way this is going to get done. Until Friday, family, when I bring you another fire show, making the case for reparations and weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. You make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and work week. If no one's told you today, I love you, Black. I love you, Strong. Peace, family.